Hello. Today I will be turning this plain frame into a velvet-backed miniature. The first thing I'm going to do is to take out the glass and remove the backing. One of these days I'll figure out what to do with all this glass I removed from my frames. And the next thing I'm going to do is use some foam board and cut out a match to the backing. I don't want to cover the backing itself as it's a little too tight of a fit. I'm going to be wrapping this foam board in the velvet itself, so I want it to fit well, as you can see, but also be really easily removable, so the extra fabric makes it a nice tight fit, but not too tight. I'm using a very thin velvet with a little bit of stretch to it, so I am using some fast-drying fabric glue to the back of my foam board only, not to the front, as when you stretch it and pull it tight, the glue does come through this velvet that I'm using. So make sure you're pulling very tight. You don't want this sitting loose on the front and sagging. And make sure you're only gluing on the back so that the glue doesn't come through the front and show. Next, I'm just trimming the corners so that it looks a little neater in the back. I'm not terribly concerned about the back for this project. And then I'm just going to glue down the edges so they don't start to fray. Now, to find free art, I went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art's website and I just searched their open access for different images. I'm using Marie Francois here. And just make sure when you're doing this, you're looking for public domain open access images. And then right over here, you can see that you can just click to download. A lot of museums have this. Museums in London, the Smithsonian, the Getty in California, they all have a partial amount of their collection online for open access downloadable images. Here's a search for still life. You can search open access only, which means you can download it. It has fair use. And all of these images you can download and use for your own devices. You can print them. Just make sure you're checking that public domain and the access restrictions. Here's the image I chose. I printed it so it would fit my oval frame here. I got this frame from a miniature site on Etsy. I will link it down below. So it's designed for dollhouse use. And I think it's just the perfect size for this project. So I am just tracing around the outside of the frame, and then I'm going to be cutting a little to the inside because I don't want that border of paper to show on the frame. I am using gel super glue for this, and before I glued it, and if you're going to use any type of glue or different, printing paper than I use, test it out on a little scrap piece to make sure it doesn't make the paper warp or the colors bleed. It's a really good thing to do. Once I have everything cut, I am just laying everything out and debating, do I want to use some rub and buff on the frame? As you can see, this one's a little darker. Do I want to switch it out to a more ornate frame? I'm just kind of going through my options here. If you're going to use rub and buff, definitely do it before you glue your image because you will mess up that paper image. I'm just going to use that same gel super glue. Just a few dabs on the frame. Again, I don't want it to run and show on the image because this frame is so narrow. And as you can see from my tester, it didn't really make the ink bleed. It's not scratching off, so I know it's going to work fine. I'm gluing my paper on, and once I have that, I'm going to let that dry and then glue it to my velvet with that same glue. Here you can see the difference between the dark rub and buff I used versus the original color. I am still debating this more ornate frame, but I do like the plain for now. And this is the finished product. You can also use your own photographs in here. Here's an image I did of my dog, Mr. Darcy, a while ago. It would make a really great miniature for this style of frame. But make it your own. I hope this inspired you to get a little creative today and a little old-fashioned. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.